How did a trusted general turn on his emperor and plunge China into a nightmare that killed over 30 million people? In the previous videos, I've covered how Cao Cao lost his grip on China in the Battle of Red Cliff, eventually bringing an end to the Han Dynasty. But now, let's fast forward 5 centuries to an age of prosperity, poetry, and betrayal. Precisely 755 CE, in the time of the Tang Dynasty, where we would see the Deadliest rebellion in Chinese history. In the 8th century, the Tang Dynasty stood as a beacon of civilization, rich, powerful, and admired from Korea to Baghdad. But beneath the silk and splendor, rot festered. From the northern frontiers, a warlord named An Lushan marched south ready to burn it all down. His rebellion would unleash chaos so vast it rivaled the fall of Rome and may have killed more than 30 million people. This is how one man nearly destroyed an empire. So, in the year 742 CE, the Tang Empire reached the peak of its glory. Under the Emperor Xuanzong, China enjoyed peace, prosperity, and a thriving culture that dazzled the world. Poetry flourished, trade boomed, cities like Chang'an were bustling metropolises at the heart of the Silk Road. But as it always goes, when an empire grows fat from its own success, its foundations will begin to crack, and the Tang Dynasty wasn't no exception. Court politics turned poisonous, eunuchs manipulated imperial appointments, and worst of all, the emperor became distracted by a single obsession: a woman named Yang Guofei. You see, she wasn't just a consort, she was the emperor's favorite with unparalleled influence. Through her, An Lushan found his way to the very heart of power. An Lushan wasn't no aristocrat. He was born to a Turkic mother and a Sogdian father, a foreigner by Tang standards. Yet he rose rapidly through the military, proving himself as a fierce and cunning general along the empire's northern border. He was clever, charismatic, and utterly ruthless. He flattered the emperor. He charmed Yang Guofei, who even adopted him as an honorary son. With her backing, An Lushan gained command of 3 key military districts near the emperor's frontier. This meant over 150,000 troops loyal to him, not the emperor. But in court, he still played the fool, pretending to be fat, playful, and harmless. But the truth was far more dangerous. By 755 CE, An Lushan had everything he needed: troops, territory, and the emperor's unwavering trust. He held command over Fanyang, Hedong, and Pinglu military districts, 3 crucial northern regions, giving him direct control of more than 150,000 well-trained soldiers. He was even granted permission to move these troops freely under the guise of defending the emperor's frontiers. But that was a lie. In truth, An Lushan was preparing for war, not against foreign enemies, but against the Tang throne itself. But in the courts, a few ministers saw the danger. One of them, Chancellor Linfu, had long tolerated An Lushan as a counterbalance to his rivals. But when Li Linfu died in 753 CE, others like Yang Guzhong, the cousin of Yang Guofei, began voicing concern. They accused An Lushan of plotting rebellion. But Emperor Xuanzong dismissed them all. How could he believe his adopted son, the charming general who danced for him in court, would turn traitor? He couldn't imagine it, but he should have. In December 755 CE, An Lushan made his move, claiming the emperor had been led astray by corrupt officials. He declared himself the rightful ruler and proclaimed the birth of a new dynasty, the Great Yan. He led his army south in a lightning-fast campaign. His first target, Luoyang, the eastern capital. It fell in a matter of days. By early 756, An Lushan crowned himself the emperor there, but he wasn't finished. His ultimate goal lay further west, the imperial capital of Chang'an, the beating heart of the Tang Empire. Panic gripped the court. An Lushan's forces were advancing rapidly and there were whispers of imperial betrayal. By July 756, Emperor Xuanzong made a fateful decision. He abandoned Chang'an and fled his court westward into the mountains of Sichuan. What followed would scar the empire forever. As the imperial entourage trudged through the mountain passes near my way, imperial guards, exhausted, starving, and furious, turned on their emperor. They blamed Yang Guzhong and Yang Gaofei for the disaster. They believed it was his political feuds that had provoked An Lushan's wrath. Yang Guzhong was killed on the spot, and they then went on to kill the emperor's son, Yang Xuan, and Lady Han and Lady Qin, who were Yang Gaofei's sisters. But the soldiers were not finished. They demanded the death of Lady Yang herself, the woman the emperor had adored for over a decade. At first, Xuanzong refused. He pleaded, but the army stood firm. They would not march another step unless she died. And so the emperor gave in. On a remote roadside near my way station, Lady Yang, once the most powerful woman in China, was strangled by imperial agents under orders from the man who once had called her his beloved. The Tang had lost its queen, and soon it would lose far more. With the imperial court in flight and Lady Yang dead, Chang'an stood defenseless. In July 756, An Lushan forces entered the capital. The city, once the crown jewel of East Asia, descended into chaos. Looting, executions, mass panic, An Lushan seized the palaces, temples, and records. He declared total victory and solidified his title as Emperor of the Yan Dynasty. But the rebellion was already spiraling out of his control. You see, while An Lushan held the north, loyalist forces regrouped in the south and the west. The emperor's son, Li Hang, declared himself Emperor Suzong in Linggu, taking command of what was left of the Tang military. Suzong forged alliances with foreign powers, including the Uyghur Khaganate, bringing in cavalry mercenaries to fight against An Lushan's forces. By the end of 756 CE, it was no longer a simple rebellion. It was an all-out civil war. Provinces splintered, warlords switched sides, and the countryside bled. Across northern China, the cost of war became unbearable. Entire towns were emptied, roads filled with corpses, famine swept across the countryside. In the cities, refugees starved or turned into cannibalism to survive. And at the center of it all, An Lushan was unraveling. Blinded by illness, bloated with disease, and wrecked by paranoia, the once charismatic warlord became a tyrant. He lashed out at his own generals, accusing them of treason. Executions became routine. No one was safe, not even his own family. Ironically, it would be his own family that would end him. In early 757, his own son, An Lushan, fearing for his own life, took matters into his own hands. He entered his father's chambers and had him murdered. An Lushan died not on the battlefield or the throne, but in the dark at the hands of his own son, consumed by the same ambition and fear that had once driven him to rebel. Even though An Lushan was dead, the nightmare wasn't over. The rebellion, now under new leadership, would rage on for 6 more years. It wasn't until 763 CE, nearly 8 years after it began, that the Tang Dynasty finally collapsed. The last rebel leader, Shi Chaoyi, was cornered and took his own life. Scholars estimate the death toll was anywhere in between 15 to 36 million, up to 1/6 of the world's population at that time. The Tang Dynasty survived, but it never truly recovered. One man's ambition had turned the richest empire on earth into a graveyard. An Lushan began as a frontier general, a foreign-born soldier who rose to the highest circles of power. But he ended as a tyrant, murdered by his own son and remembered as one of the deadliest rebels in history.